would like to welcome a rather special guest who's actually suffering badly from jet lag. He flew out late last night, all the way from North Carolina in the United States. He is the chairman of the Education Institute of the National Auctioneers Association in America, the largest auction association in the world, Mr. Kyle Swicegood, who's been fortunate enough for us to join him this afternoon. I'd like to call him up for a few words of wisdom as well as a very short Q&A. If there's ever any time you wanted to know what the Federal Reserve is doing in Washington, D.C., now is the time to ask. Our Reserve Bank is meeting this afternoon. Our Monetary Policy Committee is meeting this afternoon. If you want to know what happens when America sneezes, South Africa does get a cold, please feel free to ask him. But Kyle, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. It's 6 a.m. where I live, so I'll be the first to admit to you that not only is my accent slow, but probably my reflexes. So on behalf of your friends in the United States, good morning and welcome. So I'll tell you just a little brief history about myself and about my relationship with the National Auctioneers Association. I am a 33-year real estate veteran. Yes, I began when I was a child in the real estate industry. I started my own company in 1991. I have conducted sales both using the conventional method, but more recently, since about 2009, primarily the auction method of selling assets. In 2010, I made probably the wisest decision of my life, and I attended at Indiana University in Indiana, which is a state in the United States, the Certified Auctioneer Institute. It's actually where Joff and I actually formed our relationship. Certified Auction Institute is what I would call the highest form of auction education that's offered internationally. And if you have any questions about that, I would encourage you to go to auctioneers.org/education. So I started my company, and we at our firm, we're a family firm, which is unique. My wife, who is actually in Johannesburg this morning with me, my wife is an auctioneer and real estate broker. Get this, my son is a real estate broker and auctioneer. And let me finish, my daughter is also a broker and an auctioneer. I know it. I saw a gentleman shaking his head on the front row. He's probably saying, how in the world does he manage that? And I will tell you that it's fun. It really is fun. It's fun to have what I call a family business. I'm actually licensed to conduct auctions and real estate in 4 states: North Carolina, which is my home country, my home area, my home state; Virginia, which is just to the north of where I live; South Carolina, which is just to the south; and Georgia, which is even further south than that. I hold the Certified Auctioneer Institute designation. In the real estate world, I hold the Certified Commercial Investment Member designation, which was a 5-year program that I earned after taking the test in Chicago. And that has been a blessing for me and my career. I have sold a plethora of assets, both personal property, but mostly real estate in my career. That includes entire mountains in the North Carolina western region. A notable estate that I sold. How many of you have heard of Andre the Giant? Raise your hand. Okay, that supersedes continents. I sold his estate, and all the questions that I always get is, was it that much larger? Were the steps that much bigger? Was the bedroom that much bigger? And the answer was, no, it really wasn't. It was a conventional house in Ellerbe, North Carolina. So I am here today to talk to you a little bit about the economy. And as you know, the Federal Reserve in North America has raised rates about 10 times here in the last few months. And in our marketplace, real estate, homes are down, according to the National Association of Realtors, down 22%. And so the questions that I have been asked by a number of people is, what do you believe the state of the economy is? Well, in the United States, we have micro economies. For example, North Carolina may have a certain economic outlook where New York may have a different one. The Midwest may have a different one. I'm going to speak to you more specifically about my personal economy, which is in central North Carolina. Has anybody ever been to North Carolina? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Boy, don't I feel like an outsider. Well, thank you. We've got one in the back that's been to North Carolina. North Carolina, too. North Carolina has the coast, it has the central Piedmont, and it has the North Carolina mountains. It's really, I'm prejudiced because I love my state. I can go an hour and a half and be in the beautiful mountains. The Blue Ridge Mountains is what they call it, also the Appalachian Mountains, or I can go about 3 hours east and I can be on our beautiful coast. The biggest challenge we have in our local economy is primarily supply, not demand. The demand is there. We had an auction last week of a residential property in a community called Clemens, North Carolina. We had 40 registered bidders, and we exceeded the number that we anticipated on getting on that property. So that is a mirror of what I'm seeing across the state of North Carolina. Commercial, we do some commercial. Growing up, as you can tell, I'm an old man. Growing up in my business, I did a lot of industrial and I did a lot of retail, and I also did a lot in exchanges. I was speaking with someone earlier who quizzed me about what's an exchange. In the United States, we have a tax code that provides you the ability to do what's called a 1031 exchange, where I can buy an asset and I can sell it with a capital gain, and within a certain period of time, I can replace that asset if I follow a strict guideline and not pay capital gains on that. That was a business in and of itself for many years. But the strongest market in the commercial sector in my marketplace, I would definitely say, is industrial. Retail is suffering. COVID had a tremendous amount to do with that. But the industrial market, I sold a 200, do you all do acres? Okay, we did a 200-acre industrial complex in a county that I live nearby, and they're building about 7 200,000 square foot warehouses. And that is a strong, strong, strong market. The main thing I want to leave you with today is, number one, I appreciate the warm reception from you all, and I want you to feel confident in the future of the market. Did I say y'all? Okay, let me explain to you what y'all means. Y'all is a word that we use in our South. That means you all. My goal this week is to try to speak with a little more accent in my dialect, but I don't think I will be able to accomplish that because I am a deep Southern American speaker. But I'm going to do my best, Joff. I'm going to do my best. Let me ask you this question. Do you have any questions that you would like to ask me? I'm open to answer a few questions before the excitement begins.
Everybody, I do have a microphone so that the questions can be audible. We wanted to make the session a more participative one. So as much as Carl is here presenting his credentials and talking to some of the property trends and his experiences, rather engage in this in a dialogue with our audience. So I could either ask for an audience member to provide a question, or I in turn can provide a couple of questions that will give Kyle a forum to provide more background on his experiences and give us some answers about trends that we're seeing in the international marketplace. So, any questions? If not, I will lead and pose a few, where there's a gentleman over here.
With the current banking crisis as it is,
Right.
that seems to have spilled over to a large extent to the regional banking level as well. And the regional banks appear to have been quite a strong part of the local state property markets. Have you seen any effect of that in terms of the 4 states that you are operating in at present?
You know, we have had some bank failures. One of the things that really got me into the auction industry was the failures of the 2008, the recession that took place in 2008 or 9, which I personally am not fearful at all to see a replication of what took place in 2008 and 9. Are the bank failures going to have an impact? They are. We are much more well regulated today, despite these failures, than we were in 2008. So, to answer your question, I hope I am. I'm not overly concerned, but we have our eyes open and we're looking strongly.
I think that was a great question and a great answer, Kyle.
Thank
I'm the only one in my team that is walking around without a jacket, because Kyle has my jacket on. He had a blue jacket, and on the blue screen would have been lost. So please excuse that I'm slightly dressed down. One of the questions that I have, until somebody else jumps in, and I think it's probably on most people's minds, how do you see technology influencing both the auction industry and the real estate industry as a whole?
Great
I'm sure you've got
question.
some pearls of wisdom for us, Kyle.
Yeah, great question, and I'll give you. I'll answer that by giving you just a little bit of experience. When I first entered the auction industry in 2009, and again, it was as a result of the recession that we had. I had this vision that I was going to be standing here conducting strictly live auctions, and then I went to the Certified Auctioneer Institute in Indiana, and I learned about bidding platforms and simulcast. And I will tell you all that that is the future of the auction industry. We conduct millions of dollars of auctions annually, and all of them have an online component. And honestly, if we did not have an online component, I believe we would not be as successful as we are. Our company not only has that online component, but we also have a bidding app, which I think is important for auction companies to have to be successful, to make it. We want the bidder experience to be informative and easy. Technology, whether you like it or not, is going to be a component of the real estate industry and the auction industry for the future.
Good afternoon, Carl. In the US, you don't have the same problem as in South Africa of land invasion, looking at the migration of people from Latin America. The same as here in South Africa, we have got a migration problem of people from the northern side of South Africa. Thank you.
So what is the question as it relates to the migration and immigration in North America?
No, actually, what I'm looking at is, isn't it like we buy properties? Like now, we want to buy properties.
Okay.
Like if I own a property here, I might have a problem. There's an act of Parliament. They call it the PI Act. So whereby the migrants will come to my property, invade my land. So I have to use the courts to evict those people. So I don't know. I'm trying to compare from where you come from,
Sure,
and from locally, where I am in South Africa.
yeah. I'll try to answer that, and I'll be very transparent to tell you it's somewhat of a political question. We do have a tremendous amount of migration along our southern border, primarily Texas and Arizona. I will tell you that I live 2,000 miles away from Texas, and in my community we have, I was telling Joff earlier, we have probably 10% of our population now is Latin Americans. And here's the interesting dynamic about this. On one hand, there's a philosophy of closed border, and there's another philosophy of open border. and I'm not here to answer that question. The question that I can answer is how important that population is for work in our marketplace. And I don't know what will be the conclusion to that. It will have, does it have an impact on our real estate market? At this point, no, it does not. I don't feel that in my marketplace. But it is going to be becoming more and more of a question of how it is going to affect the economy. And I will tell you that's probably above my pay grade. That's the best I can answer that question. I hope it did.
Thanks, Kyle. We are going to offer another question to the lady over here.
Hi, Carl. Which property sector is achieving the best results currently in the States?
What property sector?
Yeah. So in other words, residential.
Yeah.
industrial,
So for us, I mean, and again, that's company to company. For us, we have an aging population in North Carolina. There are a lot more people my parents' age than there are my age, and certainly my children's age. So the majority of auctioneers that I know in the state of North Carolina are doing estate work, and it is a thriving economy. Mom and Dad built a house 40 years ago, and we are selling it to a new generation who is updating it, upgrading it, etc. Our company, we achieve a lot of positive results in that economy.
Carl, I have one more question, I think, from the gentleman here on the floor.
Morning, Carl.
Good morning.
Could you just explain to us how the tax auctions work?
Tax auctions?
Yes.
Different states, different counties. For example, I'm getting ready to do what I consider to be a tax auction, and it's a personal property auction where we are selling the government's vehicles in a local area that have been depreciated off of their books. In my county, are we designated by counties here in South Africa, or is it boroughs? What's that again? Provinces. Okay. It's different in each state. I do work for the FDIC, which I would consider that a tax auction. And basically, auctioneers vie to get that business, and it's a very competitive business. And typically, we have what's called absolute. Typically, those tax auctions are absolute, which means they are selling regardless of price, not with reserve. So it goes county to county, state to state. Yes, sir.
Carl, I think we're going to restrict ourselves to one more question.
One more question.
And then possibly your closing
and then I get
comments.
the trade jackets.
Then I get my jacket back.
Yeah.
And then we give ourselves over to the controller of Joff, our auctioneer, for the balance of the day.
Hi there. You mentioned an over demand and under supply. And I was just wondering, sort of a follow-up to the technological question where, how had that impacted the auctioning industry? How did COVID affect that supply and demand? How, what insights have been gained through COVID and that, disruption?
Yes. Wasn't COVID a disruptor in such a large way, I'm sure, here in South Africa, and certainly it was in the United States. We trudged through COVID. We really did. And we would have inspections of property, not to where we would invite the general public, but we would give slots and have someone outside for them to go in and review the property, inspect the property. Did it slow down the train? Absolutely. Were we able to manage? We made it through COVID. And I want to take your question and tie it back to a question we had earlier about technology. technology became essential for the auctioneer during the COVID era. And I don't think we know even now the effects of what that time frame is going to have on our economy. I think it's going to take a 5-year window for us to look at that. I want to thank High Street, a very reputable company, not just here in South Africa, but internationally. I want to thank them for giving me this opportunity. I'm so excited to hear my friend Jaf and Rin call bids today. I wish you success in today's auction, and thank you for your hospitality and your questions. Thank you very much.